from the Center for Immigration Studies. Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Glad to be with you.
Jessica, I want to start, and we're going to get into more of the details here with ICE and the deportations, but my first question for you is, did you notice a shift that happened yesterday when news broke about the Biden administration opening up these facilities for unaccompanied migrant children? They were saying instead of kids in cages, it was facilities and areas. There was a lot of different semantics rather than the really dreadful semantics that were used during the Trump administration.
That's exactly right. This is really stunning hypocrisy. You've got it exactly right. Jen Psaki was on defense for sure when asked, and pointed out that Kamala Harris had called these facilities, a human rights abuse, and Biden himself had called, the scenes horrifying of putting the kids in these facilities. But now these are facilities that they need because they don't want to expel all of these kids coming illegally whose parents have paid smugglers for them to come into the country. They don't want to do that. They were clear about that. They don't dare do that. But they're putting them into facilities now. And their cases will be managed. It's not that they will, be, in immigration proceedings for breaking immigration laws, that they need access to education and services too. Probably in-person instruction, unlike what so many American kids are being denied right now by their state and local governments. But,
well, Jessica, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a point I saw a lot on social media, was that these kids are getting in-person learning, despite the fact that most American kids are not. They're being forced to do virtual school.
That's right. Because they need our support. We don't, it's their own country and their own parents shouldn't be expected to provide for them. The attitude is that we need to provide for them, regardless of the cost or lack of fairness. That this is a burden that the United States and American communities must take on, just because they come, and a complete and total denial of the fact that Biden's own statements and policies are what have led people into this situation of, working with smugglers, putting kids in danger, bringing them here, and regardless of the impact on taxpayers, this is his policy. It's a direct result. No one should be surprised that this has happened right now, and it's going to get worse as long as they keep up with this policy of saying that everyone is welcome. Now, they overturned another Trump policy, the Remain in Mexico or migrant protection protocols, which required people coming here who said they wanted to make an asylum claim to stay in Mexico. And they said they were going to start letting people in, about 25,000 people, and they let in a couple of hundred, I think. And then people started to rush the border.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do now. They've kind of shut it down, but they are getting kind of a hard look at reality at the border right now and how it must be managed.
And Jessica, I am going to move on from these migrant facilities, but I do have to say that it really does expose how much of a manufactured crisis it was in the beginning when they were blaming Trump for all of this. First of all, he didn't build the cages. That was during the Obama administration. But second of all, they were acting like this was the worst thing. AOC was calling it concentration camps. People were saying internment camps. And then when you see these pictures, I don't know if you've seen them, Jessica, but these look like shipping containers with windows. So it's not exactly that different from what Trump had supposedly force these kids to go into, these cages, which, again, he did not build them, but, that doesn't matter to the mainstream media.
Right. Well, they're doing the best they can with the resources that they have and within the restrictions that have been imposed on them by a judge in California. And, it is a difficult situation, but it wouldn't be happening at all if Biden had maintained Trump's policy of not letting anyone in, of requiring them to seek asylum elsewhere or stay in Mexico. That is the most humane way to deal with this situation because it prevents it from happening.
Right. I'm talking to Jessica Vaughan from the Center for Immigration Studies. Now, Jessica, you've really been writing a lot about Biden's freeze on ICE. And I do want to talk about the recent effects that we're seeing because of this freeze. But first, can you kind of break down for people what exactly when he became president, what stopped? Like, what were the differences between his freeze on ICE and what Trump and his administration were doing?
Well, on day one, Biden issued an executive order that basically shut down immigration enforcement, except for cases of terrorists, spies, and the most egregious criminals out there, which is a tiny percentage of the illegal alien population, and said that anybody else requests for ICE to arrest someone, including people released by sanctuary jurisdictions, they had to be approved by the acting ICE director, all the way up the chain of command to be on the ICE director's desk for approval. And he's walked some of that back since, but it's still a near total shutdown of immigration enforcement. ICE officers are not allowed to make any decisions on their own except for these cases of terrorist spies and what they call aggravated felons. Now the approval is bumped down to the top ICE officer in the local field office, but the priorities are the same, which is essentially they call them priorities. It's really a near shutdown of enforcement. And this is in anticipation of a planned reorganization of ICE that would effectively abolish immigration enforcement. One of the things they want to do is abolish deportation officers, because if there aren't any people to do this job, it's not going to be done. And dangling this, calling it a promotion for ICE officers, but being promoted into a position where you can't do the job you signed up for. And ICE officers I've spoken with are very upset about this. But they plan to abolish immigration enforcement. There's no other way to describe it.
And Jessica, I want to read from one of your stories here, and the title of it was ICE Records Reveal Disturbing Impact of Biden Enforcement Freeze. But this statistic blew my mind. You said in 2018, ICE removed 95,360 aliens from the interior of the country. If the new Biden deportation policies had been enforced and applied to ICE's 2018 interior caseload, a total of 91,993, or 96.5%, would not have been subject to removal. That's a pretty astounding number.
That's right. And the Biden team does not want everyone to remember that criminal aliens have always been the top priority for ICE in immigration enforcement, and there are other ways to bring about, people, to encourage illegal aliens to leave on their own, like denying them jobs and driver's licenses and public benefits and so on. But so stopping ICE from doing its job, the effect of that is that criminal aliens, and we're talking about illegal aliens who have been arrested and prosecuted for crimes and convicted of crimes, are going to be sent back to our communities instead of back to their home country. And it's tens of thousands of people every year in every part of the country, and there is going to be a human cost for this. We know that criminals reoffend. It's not like real rocket science, and they're going to reoffend. And until I guess somebody in the top level of the Biden administration has to experience the pain of being a victim of one of these criminals, they're not going to understand it. They don't think it affects them. They're more interested in giving amnesty to the entire population of illegal aliens and the ones deported by Trump, and, just expanding immigration, I guess, to, replace Americans with people who are more, kind of docile, I guess, for their policies. But there is going to be a public safety cost for this, and it's so preventable. They are in complete denial about what the effect of these policies is going to be.
Yeah, and I think just listening to Merrick Garland, the AG nominee, you can hear the denial and this, detachment from what's actually happening. But to your point, that's something that really frustrates me. And I don't want to say it's all Democrats, but it's just about people in general, that something has to be so literal and hit so close to home before people realize how it could have negative effects. Like, unless it happens to them, they're not going to understand it. When for most people, if you watch one of these angel moms, all you have to do is watch a minute of one of their videos or one of their read one of their stories, and you can, even if you don't live in Texas or you don't think it's going to happen to you, you can empathize and you can see why this is a huge problem. But a lot of these political figures, they really don't think this is ever going to affect them.
That's right. Their kids aren't going to school in the schools where these unaccompanied minors are coming. They don't have to live in neighborhoods where the quality of life is destroyed by the criminal activity and the gang members extorting businesses. They don't notice their taxes going up, I guess. It is a detachment, and, I wouldn't wish any tragedy on anyone. What I would rather happen is I hope that law enforcement agencies around the country will somehow get, have some influence over this administration and explain to them, what's gone wrong. I don't think they're going to listen. They can't even be shamed into changing their views on things like sanctuary policies and benefits for illegal aliens and all the things that make it so much tougher for Americans who are struggling. I don't think they're ever going to quite get it. And, that's why states and local governments are just going to have to push back.
Jessica Vaughan, thank you so much for joining us. She's from the Center for Immigration Studies. You can check out all her work at CIS.org. Really good stories. Some of this stuff, if you really want to put it into perspective for yourself and see some of these percentages and see some of these crimes that according to the Biden administration don't warrant someone being deported, it will blow your mind. But it's very informative, and it's important to know it so you can understand how deadly this is. Like Jessica said, this is going to have real world impacts sooner than people think. And I want to echo what she said. I don't want anything like this to happen to anyone. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But I do think we have to open our eyes here and be honest about the problem. Jessica, thank you so much. I hope you'll join the show again soon.
My pleasure.
Guys, it's true what they say at Perfect Smiles. Change your smile, change your life. I saw the change with Howie and the mailroom manager. Many people walk around every day not smiling. Not a good way to live. Your smile changes the way that you feel. It changes how you walk around every day, how you carry yourself. It can really just change your whole mood if you feel confident in your smile. And if you want to understand the impact that a new smile can have, go to perfectsmiles.com and check out their video testimonials. Because if you're going to have a major transformation, you want to be in the right hands, and there's no one better than Dr. Houghton. He really is an artist. Perfect Smiles is conveniently located in Nashua, New Hampshire. Parking is free. Their staff is fabulous. You will feel so confident and so calm. Sometimes going to the dentist can be nerve-wracking for people. I totally understand that. But when you walk in there, you know you're in good hands. If you have been wanting to upgrade your look for years, take this as your sign. You're driving in your car and you go, oh, Perfect Smiles. I'm telling you right now, your life will change for the better. You'll be thinking to yourself, why didn't I do this years ago? Go to perfectsmiles.com. That's perfectsmiles.com. Again, check out their video testimonials. Don't take my word for it. Take the people who have perfect smiles right now and listen to their words, and you'll go, you know what? I can trust this. Change your smile, change your life. We'll take some of your calls on the other side. I'm Grace, and this is The Grace Curley Show.
Follow Grace on Twitter at @G_Curley.